Aikido for self-defense. So I'm not a fan of Aikido for self-defense. I like Aikido as a standalone art. That doesn't mean I like it for actual fighting. Some of the philosophies, such as the dynamic sphere, so if someone comes into you, you turn to the side and help them on their way, that's a principle of judo and jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I'm all for that. I don't like the philosophy of you help them on their way, you carry on walking about your day, and they're left there unhurt. So although self-defense isn't about injuring the other person, if that other person goes past you and goes, oh, where'd they go? Oh, they're over there. That person is likely to then come and attack you from behind, which we don't want. That I don't think has been translated correctly from the original documentation. If we take Aikido as it's taught today and we replace the hands with samurai swords, you can see how those techniques would work. Because you're chopping people with bloody samurai swords, of course it's going to work. The basics of Aikido, I could see where they're going from and what they're going to, what they're coming from, what they're going for. There's a couple of decent wrist locks, if you do it quickly enough. I don't see them as being the end goal. Those wrist locks are transitions. They're not supposed to be the destination. So when you do the wrist lock, you immediately apply pressure to get them to bend forward. You then bring your shin up into their face. They fall to the floor. You stamp their ankle. You get the hell out of there. That's what that is for. A lot of Aikido, if you look at the earlier Steven Seagal films, that's sort of what you're going for. But again, that was done with stuntmen who were letting him do stuff to them. They were getting paid to fly through the air for him. A lot of the stunt guys he used in his earlier films were actually his students as well, so take that for whatever it's worth. I've seen one video a few years ago of an Aikido school in America where they had the female Aikido instructor was going to use Aikido to defend against the male Aikido instructor, but the male Aikido instructor was, according to him, a former, I can't remember if it was Army or Navy, boxing champion. So he comes up with the boxing gloves on, uses his boxing, and she uses the Aikido too. I had a conversation with the guy in the comment section of their video. I asked if the guy had any boxing training because when he was coming out towards her, he was doing this, circling his hands, which I don't know of too many professional level boxers who do that. The boxing he was demonstrating would be of a lower standard than I would expect from one of my students if I was teaching them just boxing for an hour. I don't rate his boxing as he was using it on the Aikido practitioner. For my money, if you've got someone who's been doing amateur boxing for 6 months against someone who's been doing Aikido for 6 months and they are allowed to use whatever is in their syllabus, my money is on the boxer every single time. Aikido as an art form, as an expression of physical art is great. It's beautiful when it's done properly. It's lovely. It's a shame that Seagal is the main name associated with Aikido for a lot of us. As a fighting art, I don't rate it highly at all. As a self-defense system, I don't rate it highly at all. There's certain things you can look at and say, right, does that technique fit into what we know about real violence? You go through the syllabus, you go through every technique that martial art has. You say how many of their techniques will work in a real situation. You take the techniques that are left, however many or how few, discard the rest. You take those techniques and go, right, what percentage of success rate do these techniques have? So, case in point, it doesn't matter who you are or how big you are. If you're stood with your hands down and you're not expecting it, and someone lamps you with a hook to the jaw, you're going over. It has a very, 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 very high success rate. You might not be unconscious, but you're going to lose the fight against gravity at that point. So we can strip boxing down to its actual workable techniques for self-defense, which is essentially every punch they have except the jab. The very first video I did on this channel was why I don't train the jab for self-defense. We can look at that and go, right, okay, so the vast majority of this system will work. What success rate do these techniques have? Well, if you land a cross on someone, they're going down. If you land a hook on someone, they're going down. If you land an uppercut on someone, they're going down. So boxing works very, 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 very well for self-defense. Same with judo. You just need to know what you're stripping away from it. Unfortunately, the vast majority of Aikido isn't applicable. What is applicable, such as a handful of the funky wrist locks, are only workable if you understand that they're transitions. They're not the end goal, which unfortunately, again, is not what's getting taught. The idea that, well, yes, in training they're going with it because if they don't go with it, then I'll break their wrist. Right. But how many classes, and this again, if you're an Aikido practitioner, this is a question, this is a legitimate question, answer me. How many times do you go half speed? So if I go full force and you break your wrist, okay, great. What if the other person resists and they're strong enough to resist? What if you don't get the correct grip? What if from this position they can get out of that? So if I throw a cross and it doesn't hit the guy, it's very easy to then cover up while I'm throwing something else. So if I miss that cross, it's not the end of the world. If I go for an Aikido projection technique and it doesn't work, how much danger am I in from where the other person would be stood? All these things, all these variables come into play. Again, Aikido, for me, for my personal opinion on what I've looked at with it, not a lot of the syllabus translates to real violence. What does translate to real violence doesn't have a high percentage rate of working. Again, it also doesn't help that the videos we've seen of Aikido working for real is either clearly worked exhibitions, such as the Seagal in Russia stuff. There's a clip of Seagal doing the Russian demonstration where he's clearly surrounded by a bunch of sambists at a sambo event. There's one angle where you can see, I think it's over his left shoulder, there's two women stood who have clearly been competing, and they are wetting themselves laughing at what they are watching. That is fucking hilarious. Anyway, I don't rate Aikido very highly. If you are an Aikido practitioner and you do teach Aikido for self-defense purposes, get in touch. I may have missed something. If I've missed something, I'll hold my hands up and say, yeah, I was wrong. I don't personally think I'm going to be. But that's what this community should be about. It's about reaching out. It's about getting information from each other, walking through and giving our side of things. We might have a conversation and both come away feeling the exact same. I don't know. But what I will say is this is an open forum for all discussion on martial arts applicable to self-defense. So Aikido practitioners, I don't mean to upset you, but your system won't work unless you're tweaking it quite severely. If you are, let me know. I'd love to have a look at it and I'd love to give it a go.